So hi, everyone. The goal of this stream will be, just like the name says, happy little drawing. So the idea is really incorporating exactly what Bob Ross did, where he would have an hour-long program and you could tune in and you could watch him paint and he would explain what he was doing, and you could paint or draw along with him if you wanted, or you could just watch and enjoy his very calming presence. And while I certainly don't have that same calming presence or great afro, my hope is that there is not a lot of pressure. And if you'd like to show up and you'd like to draw along with me, then you absolutely can. But if you're feeling that you just want to tune in and watch and see what I'm working on, you can do that as well. And like I said, week to week, we're going to learn and we're going to get better and figure out what works for people and really try and make this accessible and easy for everyone. Just a couple of intro things while I'm on the subject. Just like YouTube, Twitch is a community, and there are going to be lots of different people posting videos and tutorials and games and all different things across all these communities. And all that I ask is that you guys, if you're poking around Twitch, just be mindful, be careful. They're like any online community. There's media being created for all age levels, and just keep a cool head about you when you're poking around. Or if you want to have, for my younger guys, if you want to have somebody kind of hanging out with you and just making sure, I'm going to do absolutely everything in my power to make sure that these streams are totally family friendly and it's a real safe space for everyone. I've got, monitoring happening in the chat and also what I can do personally, but I want everybody to have a fun time and not be worried about that. And so that's the big idea with this, and just that, everybody can be kind to each other and we can have a fun, safe place to come and draw every week, and that'll be really fun. There's a lot of different ways that you can interact with me when it comes to these streams. There is obviously the active chat that runs alongside that I can see while I'm drawing, while I'm working. So if you ever have questions about things that I'm doing, that is the best way to get your questions heard. You will only be able to post and reply in chat if you have an account. Again, for those of you who are some of my students, there is the account that I created for you guys to use, and you're welcome to use that. Or if you'd like to create your own account, that's totally free. You just need an email address. You can go ahead and do that. But that allows you to chat with me in the chat during the stream while it's going. And what's nice is, you don't have to enter any personal information. You can make your username anything that you want, and you can keep that anonymity going. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Just that, we're going to try this out and hopefully get into a regular schedule so that each week here at twitch.tv/aSwanNamedEmily, you will have access to me teaching and doing art for an hour, and we will kind of go from there. So as far as today actually goes, I know I've had a couple of different classes talk about and have some weird scheduling issues or just people not being able to make that. So I have an idea of stuff that I've been wanting to cover related to that I think will be the idea for what I'm covering today. But that's the beautiful thing about chat. If you have a specific question and you would like me to cover something very specific, ask that question and we can switch over and cover it, or put a pin in it and get ready to cover it again next week. So that's an option. And there are other ways to contact me outside of the Twitch stream. Again, if you're part of the teaching community, you have my email address through that. But if not, if you're having trouble contacting me, I'm out in the world on many different platforms, or get a hold of your mentor or your contact person through the institution that I teach through, and you can get a hold of me that way. And I just, hopefully can, if you want to show me your art, I love that. Please send me art and what you're working on. I really, really enjoy seeing what everybody is drawing and creating. That's awesome. And so, I think we will switch over and jump into the actual drawing. Here we go. Okay. So, and it always helps me if at any point you can't hear what I'm saying or something goes weird, just pop a message into chat and that will let me know, because I can't always tell what's going on my end. I can hear some of it, but not all of it. So you guys are my my good reference for that. Okay, I'm just doing the final double checks, make sure I didn't miss anybody's messages about logging in. Yeah, the goal will be to have this intro kind of trimmed down each week so there's not quite as much talking, but yeah, I want to make sure that I had a good prep and a good lead in for today. So let me switch over to I'm actually going to start with this guy. Okay, so plan for today is to focus on a quick recap covering the things that, unfortunately, for those of you who have taken class with me before, who've already experienced many, many times, but it's a review, and I promise I say these things because not only do I use them every single day in all of my drawing, but I also, it's really important to me. I think it's great technique stuff, and I think it can be incredibly helpful as you are drawing. So I like to go through that, cover that real quickly, and then I'm going to move into Pokemon because that was the request from some of my students from previous week, and they're fun to draw, and in a self-serving way, they actually fall in line with a lot of the ideas and techniques that I talk about. So they're just, in addition to just being very, very fun to draw, they're a really good resource. And I would highly, highly recommend that anybody who's looking for this stuff, like, I can't stress it enough, that looking up references, especially for Pokemon, while they are simple in very specific ways, and you can't go wrong with having a reference photo of these characters that you're drawing, especially if you want them to be instantly recognizable as the character that they are. So you're going to see me move my mic. It is around on this lovely stand here. So I am going to scooch from my main computer monitor over to the side where I have my other tablet set up. So I'll drag the mic with me. So you'll get to see that kind of going back and forth, but I will still be able to see my screen, and yeah, can go from there. I will say something I'm super excited about that I did not know before, and again, through doing these streams I learned, so this is good. I will explain through what I'm talking about. So on my main screen, you can see I opened up a program. So I have a tablet connected to my computer right now, but it is portable and can be unplugged. It's just plugged in through a USB, called the ISKN, so the ISKN Slate. I think it's the Slate 2, technically. What this allows me to do is I actually have a regular piece of paper attached to the slate and clipped onto it, and I'm going to draw on it with a real pencil. On the pencil, let me see, it has a little silver ring around it. So what's neat about the slate is the little silver ring is magnetic, and it talks to the actual drawing tablet. So I calibrate it, and then it can read where my pencil is, and it follows my drawing. So I get the wonderful feeling of drawing with pencil and paper, which is my favorite way to draw, but it's also digitally drawing into this program that I have open called Repaper. So I really like that. The slate is very neat because it has this accessibility to it. You can also connect your smartphone or tablet to it and see what you're drawing while you're drawing on it. And it has a neat feature, which I haven't utilized yet, that is you can actually take it on the go and not have any of your smart devices near it, draw on it, and it will save it. And then you can download it again later when you get back on Wi-Fi or stuff like that. It's neat. I've had this for a while, and as I've mentioned a couple times on stream now, I shamefully was not using it as much as I should have, because it's a really neat tool. I will say there's been a decent learning curve with it. It took me a while to kind of get it calibrated, get it set, and each time I'm still learning something new and figuring out better ways to use it and use it for what benefits my specific style and the way I create art specifically. So that's been an interesting kind of learning experience in addition to all these other things that I've been learning recently, but it's good. So the one thing I did find out recently is because a lot of my papers, they aren't all landscape. Sometimes I draw in portrait, is that there was a way to flip my, not only the digital version on the computer, but also my tablet itself and have it read that way. So that was just a new fun thing that I learned. So probably could have, if I'd read the manuals better or looked into it more, I probably could have learned all of these things beforehand, but I didn't, and I just winged it. So now I'm happy. Now I have a new thing, which is fun. So the only thing I will say about the slate that is a little bit of a downside is it's very, very sensitive to other electronics being near it. So if your smartphone is too close, if your tablet is too close, if it's too close to your computer, the accuracy of the pencil can be a little bit compromised. So you just have to be careful about that when you are using it. But other than that, I mean, again, that's usually just sliding it, a couple inches away, and it'll pop up. It'll give you a notification that says, hey, you have something that's too close or the connection is unstable. All right. So actually getting started. So starting with my my big favorite thing that I always start with, and that is my simple shapes. Which, again, I swear, everyone's going to get tired of hearing this, but it really is important, and I really do use it every time. So you can see kind of where my thing is there. Actually, I didn't push down enough, so oops, let me switch over that. So I'm going to start with my simple shapes. Down here. There we go. There we go. There's some fun, simple shapes. I'm not going to go into too much detail because, again, this is something that a lot of you have already heard. But from there, I'm also thinking about keeping really nice, light and loose lines in between, especially when it comes to my characters. And like I said, because we are focusing on Pokemon today, so kind of a creature creation, I want to think about the idea that as I connect my simple shapes, I'm also thinking about just using my little stick figure lines to kind of start creating it. Again, now I have my pencil, my drawing pencil on the computer cranked up a bit so it's drawing very dark because I want you guys to be able to see it. On my actual piece of paper, it's sketching very, very lightly. So I recommend that for this stage because you will probably go back and erase some of these. So there you go. So again, this is just my very rough frame. I've got a quadruped. So quadruped means something that's walking on 4 legs. So I've got my 4 little legs here. If I wanted to go in and even add a little bit more detail, I could add my joints here. And again, thinking about the fact that this leg is coming up behind the character, I wouldn't actually see that back leg, but I could still draw in the connection line if I wanted to. Switching over to my other program. All right, so here is our lovely little chibi Squirtle. And so you can see, again, and this is awesome. I found this on, obviously, drawinghowto.com. I did a Google image search for how to draw Pokemon because there's some really great resources and references out there, and I was able to pull that up. And so I wanted you guys to see not only what I searched for and what I found, but just how easy it was to get out there and get those resources. So you can see they are, once again, you have the finished version up here, and then you can see step by step how they are going through, how they're adding all their simple shapes. They didn't do the stick figure arms and legs, but because this guy has such tiny little arms and legs, I think that's probably okay, and they just jumped right into that part of it. But again, you can see, it started with just those 2 circles. If you had wanted to have the second circle overlap with the first one, you could have. They chose not to. That's fine. And you've got that great center line coming down, showing the line of symmetry. So showing the divide in the face where the center is. So switching over to Bulbasaur, but again, same idea. And obviously these are the chibi versions, so they are already even more simplified than the normal Pokemon are. But I really liked this how-to because it was illustrating exactly what I was talking about. And I think that's important, that I not only get up and teach and talk about the different techniques that I use and what I think works really well, but I show you other versions of other people doing the same stuff and tweaking it or going in a slightly different direction with it, but still that same idea. I'm going to pull up one final thing for you guys to see. All right, so there's our little guy, Squirtle. So this is the actual Squirtle, not the chibi version. Now, what I will say is that they went in and they jumped to drawing some of these details a lot earlier than I would have, but that's the beautiful thing. There's not really a wrong way to do this. And when it comes to all the different teaching elements, the idea is artists will tell you their process, they'll tell you what worked well for them, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. If you find another way that works better for you, you can absolutely use that. And so these are just, again, getting that information and having those resources available. So I'm going to draw this guy step by step. I'm going to switch my program over so you can watch me while I draw, so you won't be able to see the reference anymore, but you can see what I'm drawing. All right, so I'm going to draw him exactly as he is in this pose, just so you guys can kind of watch me. Make sure my thing is calibrated. All right, so I'm going to start with that top oval. So because of the nature of Squirtle's arms and legs, and they are so very simple on their own, I'm kind of just going to do the blobby shape of them without worrying about like his toes or anything like that, just because I don't need the bend in the knee or the bend in the elbow, because he kind of just doesn't really have that. I'll tell you what, if you ever need a great reference for drawing a toddler, Squirtle is just about the best, especially when he's up walking on his legs, because he kind of walks and moves and is shaped like a toddler. And that's very fun. So I'm actually going to curl his tail up just a little bit. There we go. So now is the great point where I can step back, and again, like I mentioned, that my lines are very, very dark in comparison. But this is the point where on my regular sketching, I could go in and say, okay, well, I need this arm to come down just a little bit further. And this part needs to connect to where the blue part of him is, not the shell. So I can edit that and make those lines a little bit darker. I'm going to go in and add my center line. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch over and use a different tool setting so you can still see my work lines underneath, but you can see the new lines that I'm making a bit darker. So I'm going to switch over to this one. Okay. I can actually kind of go over here. So we go in and erase that. Some of these little blips. Okay, I'm going on to his face. I love his little mouth there. It's so cute. There are so many Pokemon. They're all just, they're so adorable. Okay. Yeah, got a little bit of wonkiness on his mouth. My pen is definitely not. It's picking up a little bit weird today, so I wonder if it's because my microphone is too close. So I'll have to work on that part. I'm pretty happy with him. He looks pretty cute. You got to see step by step how I worked that. So I have one other kind of technique thing that I wanted to try related to Pokemon today, but I realized that I am out of water, so I'm going to step away for a quick second, and I will be right back, and then we will switch over and we'll work on that. Okay. All right. So coming back in. All right. So I've switched over to program. So I've got two little bits I kind of want to talk to you about when it comes to this second section. If I was going to go ahead and break down this guy with the method that I just talked about using my simple shapes and my stick figure lines, I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to draw right next to him so you can still see it. So let me get that. So it's a little bit different. So now I'm just going to explain to you each time what I was doing. So now I've switched over and I'm working on my computer with my Wacom tablet attached to it. So Wacom is a brand. It is a drawing tablet. It's connected through USB. So now I'm drawing with my stylus pen onto a tablet surface that's sitting next to me. So I'm right-handed, so it's on the right of me, right below my mouse. But what's weird about these is in the drawing tablet, I have it sitting down on the desk, and that's where I'm drawing, but I'm looking up at the screen to see what I'm drawing. So this is where the drawing tablets can be a little bit tricky. There's definitely a learning curve when it comes to getting used to not looking directly at what you're drawing. I know that was one of the biggest things that I struggled with, and I still struggle with. There are times when I am so much faster working on pencil and paper and then scanning and bringing it in than I am trying to draw it on my tablet. I see people who also have those beautiful tablets where you can draw directly onto them. That's what I would like to upgrade to, but as I currently have technology that works for me, I'm sticking with that and, try to make do with that. But so you're going to see, and I think it's why I keep it in, is you're going to see me go around a couple of times as I'm sketching and work through a few different things because I'm still working on the tablet. So I'm going to start, let me see, make this a little bit bigger. You can see my circles are not good. That's why Control Z is great. Nope, I don't like any of this. I'm just going to keep drawing circles until... But you'll notice there's a little bit more of that shakiness than was on when I was drawing on the other tablet. So again, this is probably why I would start on the other tablet first and then move over to this. But I wanted you guys to at least be able to see me drawing in here. Little guy, he's so angry. Got a bigger tail now. And you'll notice with this, obviously this is an evolution of the squirrel that we just drew. So it shares a lot of commonality in the shapes that make him up. Let's give him lots of space for his tail. There we go. Boop. So you notice some of those shapes are definitely much easier for me to draw than others. And you'll just keep going back and redrawing the same shape. And again, it's circles. Circles are really tough for me to draw on my tablet. So any chance I can to draw them a different way, I will. Or just utilize my eraser tool to get back to the shape I want. There's another technique that I will try sometimes. And again, I'm using kind of a modified brush. So I can also go in and, you know, use a bigger line and then erase away the stuff that I don't want. All right. And then the center line. And its little ears. Okay. So again, this is something neat. So we can see, obviously not my best drawing, but that's okay. So we'll take him and see if we can move him over and see how we're doing. So yeah, not too bad. Pretty close. I made this arm a little bit longer and changed the shape of the tail, but not too shabby. So before I go any farther with this, I just wanted to show you exactly what we had just covered. But then there's another method, and I think it works really, really well for the Pokemon, which is why I wanted to bring it up for this one specifically. And that is when I'm not sure what I'm going to call this one yet. I kind of want to call it blob. I'm going to call it blobbing for right now. And this one I think is neat. So I'm going to talk for a bunch and then get into drawing it. But a big reason that I push the simple shapes and stick figure method is because a lot of it comes from my background in animation. So the idea when I was illustrating characters and designing characters was the idea that they were going to be characters that were going to move throughout space, that I was going to have to draw in a number of different positions and placements and poses. And so being able to understand the underlying anatomy of the character, even if it was an imaginary character or a Pokemon, they might be imaginary, but if it was one of those, then if I understood how the pieces all worked together, I could figure out how to move these characters in space, how I could turn them and rotate them while keeping their perspective, while keeping all of their details. So I like that idea of knowing all the different shapes that make them up, because then I can start to change them. And this one is working off of the same idea. So what I've got is I'm just going to actually fill in. If you ever watch that jump, that's because of my tablet. It's old and it's cranky and sometimes it stutters. So I'm essentially just going to draw the character's silhouette. So let's just be the character all blacked out. And I'm not going to get too much into the tail because that kind of overlaps. Let's get, beep. Yep. Yep. So what I think is neat about this, and I'm going to shrink him just a little bit so you can see. I don't run out of drawing space. It's looking very, very cute and simplistic. But let me move him over here. Is that if I wanted to, I now kind of have a rough idea of what the character looks like just in silhouette. So what the shapes are without having to worry about all these details. So if I was just trying to kind of figure out how he would look if he went down onto all fours and was kind of in a different attack position, I'd say, all right, so maybe he, I'll still see his head here. Blobby, blobby, blobby. And his two arms here. And then I've got shapes back here, and I know he's going to have one of his other legs. And I'll have his tail coming up here. thinking about the fact that he's got his shell on his back and all of the tail. So there is something in animation, specifically in thinking about being able to tell what a character is doing by their silhouette. So you should be able to go in and, without having any of the details, kind of figure out what the character's pose is, what their feelings are, and that all has to do with how your character is shaped, how they're posed, and what is a clear and legible pose. So this is obviously just really, really rough, but then what I could do, so I'm actually going to take this one and put him on a different layer. And I'm going to... So what I did just now is I lowered the opacity of my layer. So I went in and said that instead of being at 100%, which is full opacity, I dropped it down to 50%. So the whole image is still in full color, but to me it's only showing 50% of its opacity. And the reason I did that was so that I could easily see the lines I was going to put on top of this character. I'm also going to switch my pen color so you guys can see this a bit better. Bring this down. So what I could then do with this silhouette that I have is kind of go in, and even if I wanted to draw in my rough lines, I could start to go in and figure out where the different facial features are going in. Mad eyebrows in. Mad eyebrows. Beep. And if I want to change, again, I am drawing digitally, so I have these on a different layer, so I can always get rid of that layer when I'm done with it, so I don't have to worry about if I decide that I have a slightly better angle on how I want that hand and arm to be. You also see me switching tools. I'm switching in between my drawing tool and my eraser tool, which is just like I would do if I was using a regular pencil and paper. I'm thinking about the fact that his shell is sitting on his back. Oh, you can see. So this, unfortunately, I mean, it's a good show. So a lot of these wiggly lines have to do with the specific technology that I'm using. So because my Wacom tablet is older, it doesn't always connect well to the program that I'm using to draw in and the computer that I have. You can see I'm going back to my reference image because while I do draw Pokemon a fair amount, there are hundreds, thousands of them, and they are all very specific and unique, and I like to make sure that I'm getting the details of these characters correct. And because I have the reference right in my program, easy to look at, I might as well utilize it while I have it there. I was trying to keep zoomed out so you guys could see the whole thing, but it's definitely, I'm getting a much nicer image zoomed in, so I'm going to stay zoomed in for a little bit and work on that, and then I will zoom out later so you guys can see the whole thing. So I definitely think that this particular technique is easier, more accessible to a digital drawing, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because I showed you the traditional drawing that I did to the start, where I drew on my pencil and paper and then it brought it into the computer. I don't have a great setup just yet for live capturing me actually drawing at my drawing table. I'd have to use my phone because I don't have a portable webcam, but it is something that I am working on because I want you guys to be able to see. Also, I just really like drawing traditionally, so I want to be able to do it too, but I want you guys to be able to see what it looks like when I hand draw this stuff. But for now, we will stay digital and okay. It's so much easier up close. I should have just zoomed in. That's okay. So I brought up, again, I was kind of on this tangent, then I got off on something else because that's the nature of this. But I like this silhouette drawing because it gives you an idea to kind of play almost like you would with Play-Doh, where you can shape and you can move something just by drawing kind of the blobbiness of this character. And you can figure out the posing without necessarily having to immediately know exactly what all the arms, legs, tails, fins, anything are doing. If it comes to humans, to hair. Again, this is for me personally. I think I would like this. I'd find this more useful when it came to drawing my animal creatures. Just because of the nature of them, you can really get the great movement, the great posing that animals have, or if they're standing very regal and very pulled up, you can have that as well. And I think this would work really, really well for that. But I primarily draw humans. So I am comfortable with the stick figure method for humans and those simple shapes just because that's the way I normally draw them. But if this works better for you, then absolutely go ahead. And as I've mentioned before, this is just two of many, many ways to draw characters. And the goal being, maybe for you to have that aha moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I could never figure out how to, draw my character in perspective. I'm just making up the tail now. I should look at the reference. Okay, I went up a little too high. I didn't know how to draw a character in perspective, or I always had trouble changing them or moving them around, and I could just draw from a specific image. So maybe, maybe some of this will help that, and you'll figure out other ways. See, look at that difference between the farther out and the in. It's just crazy. But yeah, hopefully it'll help you with your drawing. And, there's a big thing, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, obviously, with the name and everything that I talk about. I am a huge Bob Ross fan. I think he was an incredible painter. I think he was a wonderful teacher, and he had an incredible impact on me at a very young age. And the big thing I took away from his stuff was, he's never going to see your paintings, obviously, unless you send him a picture, but he was proud of you. If you got up and you painted, then you created something, and that is something to be proud of. And I feel the same way, and I want my students to leave feeling happy that they drew something, even if they don't think it's good or they think they can do better. That's okay. And even the most talented artists are still learning. They're still figuring out new techniques or getting better at certain poses or hands or feet or hair or Pokemon. And there is no shame in continuing to learn as you grow, and you will be a better artist for the fact that you continue to grow and learn. And the other side of that is that you can just enjoy drawing and creating as a hobby. It doesn't have to be your career. If you just like to sketch and you want to get better at sketching because you find it relaxing, like reading a book, then that's amazing. And you can take it at your own pace. And, there's no there's no prize for being first place in drawing. Each person gets something different out of it. And I cannot draw these ears very well. Let's see this. There we go. So I think they're actually going to come more up this way. This is why it's important to look at your reference. Boop. Yeah, I like that better. See, if I would have just looked at my reference first, I could have saved myself a couple of drawings, but that's okay. Okay. So I think I'm just going to draw that upper line. Oh. Okay, so now, again, because I'm working digitally, I could go in and I could take that out and I'd be left with my character. Again, I can look at this and say, okay, well, I kind of flattened his face a little bit here, so I'm going to go in and fix that. But I might not have seen while I still had my silhouette layer turned on. Let's try and get him a little bit. I think that looks a little bit better. Whoop. There we go. So just by changing that a little bit, I'm a little bit happier with it. Again, I can still obviously make some tweaks, and but I will say, you know, drawing digitally like this is tricky for me, so it's good practice. I can get better at it, and the practice is good. Oh, I gotta give him his little teeth. His teethers. Forgot his teethers. There. Oh, he's so much cuter already. No, it's too far out. Beep. Meow. Better. Much better. Yeah. To just draw digitally like I sketch is really tricky. I certainly enjoy coloring digitally, as I did on my stream earlier this week, but the actual just regular drawing is a challenge with the Wacom tablet. You know, I see people who just pump that out and kick butt with it, and more power to them. I've also seen people who draw great with a mouse, and that's absolute flat out sorcery to me. So I don't know how they do that. Well, thank you everyone who is here. I really appreciate you all stopping by and drawing with me, or just watching me draw. And I'll reiterate that this is now going to be a weekly thing, at least for the foreseeable future. And we will, so every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will jump on here and I will run a lesson, like I said, either inspired by something that you guys ask me or something that I come up with, and we'll cover that. And I kind of liked this outro of just drawing and doing that, so that might be a part of it that we keep in for future weeks. But yeah, follow me on all social medias if you don't already, and if you hit follow on this Twitch channel, it'll alert you whenever I go live, and I'll try and be very specific in the description of the video what I'm covering that day, or what I'm doing, and yeah, that'll be fun. So hopefully everyone has a nice rest of their Friday, and if not, then please have a nice rest of your Friday, and if I don't talk to you before that, then I will see you next week on Friday. So bye guys.